Hi guys, my name is Marissa Rizzuto, and I am so glad you're going to be joining me and Define My Style for our Summer of Style program. We're very excited to have you here. My name is Marissa Rizzuto. I am a fashion stylist. Been a fashion stylist for over 10 years. I also am the creator of Fashion Bootcamp 101, which is a place where teens can go to learn about the fashion industry. We sell products and have workshops throughout the year. And this whole session, we're going to be speaking about different careers in the fashion industry, hopefully getting you all excited about a certain career you may want to go into by the time college rolls around. So through interviews with professionals, you're going to get an inside look on certain areas in the industry that may interest you, and we're going to give you projects every week, and it's going to be a ton of fun. So with that, I'm going to go over today some of the careers we're going to be going over every week, and then after we study that career, you're going to get a project, and you're all going to work in groups, and your projects are going to be judged, and you're going to get points, and it's going to be so much fun. So the first career we're going to talk about is wardrobe styling / fashion styling, which is what I do. And basically, if you love to put clothes together, if you love to create outfits, things like that, being a fashion stylist is something that you may really want to go into. And the great thing about fashion styling is because of the birth of the internet, there's a lot more opportunity for stylists than there were 10 years ago. So many companies have e-commerce websites now where they sell things online. So there are stylists that need to be around so they can create all the looks for the website. You could also, as a stylist, you could work for a magazine, you could work for catalogs, you can work on commercials. Certain stylists like myself and Dawn Del Russo, who we're going to be interviewing, appear on television, and we do fashion segments and let everybody know all the looks that are in for this season, or maybe how to get looks at budget prices, all that sort of thing. And it's a very fun job, but as with any job, it also is a lot of work, and we'll go through all of that through the week. As a stylist, you're in charge of checking in all the clothes, making sure everything is there. You have to get it to the photo shoot. You have to make sure it gets returned, all that kind of stuff. And when you work in the fashion industry, and as I go over all the different careers, the main thing to know when you work in fashion, it's a fun job. There's a lot of creativity and a lot of really fun people that you get to meet along the way, and sometimes you get free stuff, and it's really cool. But working in the fashion industry also involves a lot of work, a lot of long hours. No matter what you do in the industry, there's always a deadline, because every season the line has to be finished at a certain time. So whether you're a stylist, whether you're a buyer, whether you're a merchandiser, everybody has a deadline, and that's one of the main things in fashion. So you're always going to be working long hours, especially as deadlines get closer, and that's something to know, but it does pay off, and it's so much fun to work in fashion. The other career we're going to be going over is magazine editors. And as you all know, again, there's tons of blogs out there, tons of fashion websites. So magazine editors aren't just for magazines anymore. There's editors that are needed online as well for certain blogs or for certain online places where people go. A lot of the magazines also have their own online websites, so you need editors for the magazine and then the online website itself. So magazine editors, if you're a person that loves trends, if you love to spot trends, if you're always on top of what's going on and you know what the next big thing is, then being an editor might be for you. And if you love to write about it, if you love journalism and all that sort of stuff, that is the career that you may want to follow. And being an editor also involves styling as well, so that is another form of styling. A lot of editors are stylists, and then they also write as well. So that's a really fun job too. The next career we're going to go over too is what a publicist does. And the reason why we're putting the publicist and the magazine editor together is because a publicist, their main job is to sell their clients clothing or whatever fashion accessory they're representing. What a publicist does is they contact editors and they contact producers on certain television shows or producers on movies. And what they do is they get the product on television or they get the product in the magazine. So this way the public knows about it. So most fashion companies whether they're clothing or their accessories or they just have a business like myself, we all have publicists because that's the way the world or the nation gets to learn about your product. So you need a publicist around to do that for you. And when you're a publicist, it involves a lot of writing. Again, if you love to write, being a publicist may be something you might like. It also involves a lot of relationships with people. So you want to make sure that you're personable and that you're outgoing. A lot of time publicists plan events, runway shows. You know, all those runway shows you see during Fashion Week, publicists all have a hand in that, and it's their job to produce those runway shows to make sure they get the right people to the show. And also when you're a publicist, you get to deal with celebrities a lot, which is a ton of fun. You want to make sure your clients' products get to celebrities so they wear them, so again, the public knows that they're around. And you know, whenever a celebrity is in something, let's face it, we all want what the celebrities are wearing, so that's a publicist's job to get their clients' clothing or accessories to the celebrity stylists so that the celebrities can wear it, and then therefore the product gets some press. So being a publicist is a ton of fun. And another great thing about being a publicist is if you enjoy, you know, going to parties and events and mingling, that's another big part of the job. But just knowing you're a publicist, if you have an event, you know, after work, and let's say you don't get home till 2 or 3 in the morning, you have to go to work the next day and be ready to go and work a full day. So it's a job where you have to have a lot of energy for it, and if that's something you like, then being a publicist is definitely the right outlet for you. The next job we're going to speak about is merchandising, and this is more the business end of fashion. And when I say the business end of fashion, these are the people that work behind the scenes that make sure that the clothing and the accessories are made properly, are put in the stores properly. So what a merchandiser does is their job is to, usually when you're a merchandiser, you work for a designer. So let's say you work for Ralph Lauren or Donna Karan or, you know, any other brand. Your job is to go into work every day and you work with the designers on the team. And what a merchandiser does is they have to make sure that the product is correct for their client. So let's say you are a merchandiser for Ralph Lauren. You have to make sure that if you're working on, let's say you merchandise shoes, those shoes have to be right for the client. So you want to make sure you're using the right fabrics. You want to make sure that the price point is correct. You want to make sure the style is correct. Maybe the clients in California are different from clients in New York. So maybe a certain color is popular in California, but maybe in New York that color is not so popular. So it's the merchandiser's job to make sure that the correct merchandise is made for the client. And with that, they work with the design team. They kind of work together. The designer is more creative, whereas the merchandiser is more on the business end. And a lot of times as a merchandiser, you may travel. If the factories, let's say the designer you work for, let's say their clothing is made in China or it's made in Japan, you may have to go to the factories twice a year. So it does involve some traveling, but if you're a person that loves to travel, it's a great job for that. So that's what a merchandiser does. And then you also have what's called visual merchandising. And what visual merchandising is, basically when you go to department stores and you see the windows and they're all displayed with all really beautiful clothing, that's what visual merchandising is. As a visual merchandiser, you go in, let's say you work for Bloomingdale's, you're going to do the windows at Bloomingdale's, you're going to put the signage throughout the store, you're going to merchandise the store, meaning however the clothes are hanging, certain areas of the store. You want to make the clothes enticing to the customer. So it's your job, when the customer walks into that store, your job is to catch their eye with clothing and accessories to make them go over and buy whatever it is that's displayed. That's what a visual merchandiser does. And as a visual merchandiser, you can either work for a department store, you can work for a designer. So let's say maybe you work for Marc Jacobs. Your job may be to go to the Marc Jacobs store and merchandise those stores. Your job may also be to visit department stores that carry Marc Jacobs, make sure everything is visually correct and how you want it. So visual merchandising is a lot of fun if you're creative. And again, it is another form of styling, because at the end of the day, you may not be styling humans, but you're still styling the clothes. So it's another form of styling that's a lot of fun. And also you may even work for the showroom. And what a showroom is most designers have showrooms where buyers go to and stylists so they can see the latest clothes. And with that, a visual merchandiser will also style and merchandise the showroom every month to update it so when the buyers and the stylists come, they can see what's new. And then next would be a buyer. And I think we all know what a buyer is. A buyer is a person that picks out the clothes for the store they work for. So as a buyer, you go to runway shows every season. You will go to Fashion Week because it's very important that you see what's coming out and what's trendy. And then depending on the store you work for, you have to pick out the clothes that the clients or your customers are going to like. So let's say you're a buyer for Bloomingdale's, or you'd say you're a buyer for JCPenney. Those are two totally different clients. So the buyer at JCPenney is going to pick different clothing than the buyer at, say, Bloomingdale's. And there are different departments for each buyer. So you may have a buyer that just does accessories. You're gonna have a buyer that just does women's contemporary, which would be like 7 Jeans or Marc by Marc Jacobs. That would be considered contemporary wear. Then you have buyers for menswear, and then you have buyers for shoes. So each department store has a ton of different buyers that work there. With that, you could also work for a designer as a buyer. Let's say you work for Donna Karan and you're a buyer for Donna Karan. Your job may be to buy for the stores that Donna Karan has throughout the United States. So you may have a certain territory that you buy for. And with that, you again pick what's good for your client. So you want to make sure you're carrying the right stuff for the customer, therefore selling, the most you can sell. And as a buyer too, it's not just about picking out clothes and, that's part of the job, but a lot of the job is doing math. So you want to make sure you're good with math because you have to memorize a ton of formulas. You have to project profits and losses, things of that nature, but we'll go into that as the weeks go on, and I'll explain what open to buy means. And then the final thing we're going to be talking about is a designer. We all know what designers do. As a designer, you could, have your own line if you want to go into your own business, or as a designer, you can also actually work for a design label. So any big design label, Ralph Lauren, Marc Jacobs, Betsey Johnson, they all have designers that are on staff and that create the clothes. So with that, you would start out as an assistant and you work your way up to a senior designer. And like I said earlier, designers work with the merchandiser, and it's up to the designers to come up with looks each season. So again, you have to be ahead of the game. You have to know what's trendy and what's coming up for the season, and design for your customer. So, every designer has a different customer. Every design label is different. So a designer will come in and they'll make sketches, and you work on computer, and we'll go over all of that later on in the week. But now most designers do work on computer. It's really not just about hand sketching anymore. There's a lot of great computer software now that designers use to come up with looks. And once you come up with some looks, you're gonna sit with the senior designer, and you may even sit with the person that owns the label, and they'll go over the looks, and then you pick out what you like, and then the merchandisers take it from there. And that's what a designer does. And if you want to be a designer, you have to have a portfolio. So it's very important, if you're thinking about becoming a designer, that you start with a portfolio, and the earlier the better. So you're going to need a portfolio to go to college. In order to get into the school, they're going to have to see that you can sketch and that you can sew. So if you really have dreams of being a designer, you want to make sure that you start taking art classes. You want to make sure that you start taking sewing classes so that you have basic sewing knowledge, because you're going to need that for school. So that's very important. So with that, we're very excited to have you guys here, and we can't wait to go over all of the different careers and all the interviews you're going to see, and all the projects you're going to have are so much fun, and we're very excited. So if you have any questions, you could always email us at Define My Style. You can contact us with any questions. Otherwise, we will get on with the next few weeks, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And thanks again for enrolling, and we're so excited.